Have you ever found yourself thinking, if God is all good and all powerful, why is the devil still around? It's a question that can seriously test your faith, especially in the dark moments. Why didn't God just get rid of Satan the second he rebelled? I mean, think about it. One quick, decisive move. No temptation in the garden. No fall of man. No evil infecting all of human history. It seems so obvious, right? So much cleaner. So why didn't it happen? The answer isn't that God is weak, and it's not that he doesn't care. The real reason Satan is still here is actually central to God's plan to save us. And by the end of this, I think you'll see that God's choice wasn't a mistake. It was a profound act of justice and love. To really get this, we have to go way back. Before us, we have to understand that this conflict wasn't just a fight. It was a fundamental challenge to the government of heaven. Lucifer, who was the highest angel, didn't just start a brawl. He made an accusation. He put God's very character on trial. His charge, that God was a tyrant, that his laws were unfair, and that nobody could truly be happy or free under his rule. He was basically telling the entire universe that he had a better way. Now, just imagine for a second, if God's immediate response was to vaporize him with a bolt of lightning, what would that have proven to all the other angels watching? Honestly, it would have proven Lucifer's point. It would have looked like a dictator silencing anyone who disagrees. From that moment on, every angel would obey God not out of love, but out of fear. And a universe ruled by fear is the last thing God wants. He's building a family, not an army of terrified slaves. So, instead of a swift execution, God allowed the trial to proceed. He let Satan try to build his own kingdom, his own system. This world, with all its history, has become the courtroom exhibit. God is letting this tragic experiment of sin run its course, so that everyone in heaven and on earth can see for themselves what happens when you unplug from the source of all life and goodness. It's a long, heartbreaking process, but it is meant to settle the question for all eternity. Is God's way actually good and loving? The evidence is still coming in, and every one of our lives is part of the testimony. Here's another huge piece of the puzzle. We have to understand what Satan is. We're human, so we think about life and death in biological terms. But Satan isn't human. He's an angel, a spiritual being. And spiritual beings don't die the way we do. They're eternal. So, the real question isn't how to end Satan's life, but what to do with an eternal being who has chosen pure evil. The Bible is pretty clear that there is an endgame for Satan. It's not just a quiet death. It's a formal, public, and eternal judgment. The book of Revelation calls it the lake of fire. This isn't about simply destroying an enemy. It's about carrying out a perfect and final justice that everyone can witness. And that's the key. This judgment has to be public and completely beyond reproach. Every angel and every human needs to see why it's happening and agree that it's the right and just thing to do. God's justice has to be transparent. If Satan just vanished one day, doubts could linger forever. Was he really that bad? Did he deserve that? Instead, God has set a future day for judgment. On that day, the pain, the final verdict will be based on overwhelming. His power was broken at the cross, but his final sentencing will happen at the end of time, ensuring that a rebellion like this can never, ever happen again. Ugly nature will have been exposed for all to see. This leads us to the most personal reason of all. This whole story, Satan's rebellion. God's patience, it's not just about cosmic politics. It's about you and me. God's choice to not destroy Satan immediately was a choice he made for our sake. When God created people, he gave us the same incredible gift. He gave the angels real, genuine, free will. He didn't want a world of robots programmed to say, "I love you." He wanted children who would choose to love him. But for that choice to be real, there has to be another option. Satan became that dark option. The tragedy in the Garden of Eden is that a real choice was on the table. He could have prevented the temptation altogether, but that would have made our freedom a total sham. He would have been treating us like puppets. So instead, he allowed us to be tested, and when we failed, he didn't scrap the project. He jumped into the wreckage with us. This is the heart of the gospel. God didn't watch from a distance as we suffered. He became one of us. Jesus Christ entered our messy history, lived a perfect life, and defeated Satan on his own turf. At the cross, Satan's hold on us was broken. Christ's victory wasn't just for him. It was for us. He proved that people, by partnering with God, could stand up to evil and choose what is right. So now, our lives, our daily struggles, our choices, that's the front line in this conflict. Every time someone chooses grace when they could choose selfishness, or chooses hope in the middle of despair, It's a direct blow to Satan's argument. It's proof that God's way works. God is taking the very evil that Satan unleashed and using it to show something far more powerful. The beauty of redemption, the strength of grace, and the power of a faith that has been tested by fire. I know this is heavy stuff. These are some of the biggest questions we can ask, but this conversation doesn't have to stop here. What part of this story hits home for you the most? Is it the idea of God's character being proven, the reality of a spiritual judgment, or our role in this whole drama? Let me know in the comments. I really do read them all, and I want this to be a place where we can explore these ideas together. And hey, if you get value out of these deep dives, please consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. So, why didn't God just kill Satan? Because a quick execution would have been an act of power, not justice. It would have left a permanent question mark hanging over the universe and created a kingdom based on fear. Instead, God chose the harder, more patient, and ultimately more loving path. He allowed this great conflict to play out, to prove, once and for all, that his rule is based on love, not force. He is respecting the eternal nature of the beings he created, saving the final judgment for a day when it can be public, final, and undeniable. And most importantly, he did it for us. He allowed the tragedy of evil so he could step into it and pull off the ultimate rescue mission. He is turning the very weapon meant to destroy us into the tool of our salvation, building a family whose love is real because their choice was real. The fact that Satan is still here isn't a sign of God's absence or his weakness. It is the clearest sign of all that his plan is still at work, a plan not just to defeat an enemy, but to completely remove the possibility of evil ever rising again, and to secure a universe held together by a freely chosen,